Hello, everyone. So the webinar has just started, and I see people joining. Okay, thank you for joining us today for this VividWorks webinar on growing e-commerce with the 3D configurator. I'm Justin, and I have the pleasure of representing VividWorks as your host today. Next slide, please. So just some information regarding this webinar. It will last for 1 hour and it is recorded, so you can rewatch it anytime. If you have a question, you can use the Q&A feature below, and anonymous questions are available as well. Before we dive into the world of 3D product configuration, let me introduce you our speakers of today. So Jarkko, who is here, CEO at VividWorks, Elliot, Director of ELLTEK Systems, and Simo, our CPO at VividWorks. And here's a quick overview of today's agenda. We'll start by exploring the challenges of selling modular products online. Next, we will demonstrate our 3D product configurator. Then we have a special segment featuring ELLTEK Systems, where we'll showcase their journey with our configurator. Finally, we'll wrap up with a Q&A session. So this is the opportunity to ask questions and engage with our experts. And stay tuned for our personalized offer. We'll give you more details at the end of this webinar. Now, without further ado, Jarkko, the floor is yours.
Hey, thanks, Justin, and welcome to everybody attending on my behalf too. So my name is Jarkko. I'm with VividWorks, and gonna quickly just before diving into the actual challenges of e-commerce and 3D product configuration and how to solve them, introduce the company. So who's VividWorks? So obviously we are a SaaS product company. We provide a SaaS platform which is aimed at solving problems around the design to purchase with the help of 3D technology. And we've been around for some time, established 2006. And obviously, as you can tell, probably by the really complicated names, which are hard to pronounce, that we're based out of Finland. Despite that, we are obviously quite global. We have users in all continents of the world. We have customers pretty much all around the world, if not in necessarily all the continents. And the company is really focused around the expertise around 3D and how to bring that to the business applications, and then obviously continuous innovation around that by investing into product development heavily, and bringing new features and product modules continuously to the market. Now, when we talk about e-commerce, a lot of the time what people say and what's being researched quite a bit is that visuals matter. So by showing the product when people are actually considering a purchase, that's really important. It helps people to make decisions when they actually see what they're buying. Oftentimes in e-commerce that means photos or rendered images of the actual product. And when you are selling modular products, that represents a challenge. How do you actually display the combination of a set of product modules and the associated choices with colors or accessories or any of the sort of different product settings to the customer, because they might actually like to see that variant that they've chosen or want to configure. And 3D obviously represents a good possibility to showcase these kind of products in a better way. So with the help of 3D and bringing a 3D model live into your browser, it's possible to actually showcase visually very complex product configurations, either in the context of actual consumers buying consumer products, or in the context of even very complex B2B and industrial products. It also helps with pricing transparency, because when customers are actually able to see the product, they're likely to see it in 3D. They're likely to actually make changes in real time, try out various combinations of colors, and see how that impacts the actual purchase price. And it really also helps with the customer experience. It kind of is the first starting point for your customer to actually get to know your product a little bit better. And then, of course, the final thing is that, or the final things are related to actually inventory, whether all those modules are available with the product. And then secondly, of course, visual representation, especially the realistic 3D representation, helps with product returns. So the customers who are buying the product, they're less likely to actually return the product, ship it back to you, if they are kind of disappointed that the product didn't actually look like or feel like what it represented on the website. So these types of challenges are very typical that we solve with a 3D product configurator. And obviously, what do we provide as a company? We basically provide a web front end or parts of a web front end, which enables an e-commerce site visitor to design, customize, configure, and then obviously order a product or a set of products. And it's really easy. It makes the purchase decision and making comparisons, seeing the product in various angles, very easy for the customer. But not only that, we do also offer something for the actual manufacturer of the product or the seller of the product, to enable kind of like a backend platform, which then integrates seamlessly to the actual e-commerce site, and also allows the administrator to set up the 3D model of the product and the associated product rules and the product structure, so that you can actually allow the consumer or the customer to configure the product. Then, finally, you can't really talk about 3D product configuration without talking about actual numbers, because these are the things that make it really concrete for the owner of the business or the actual company, that to make the business case to invest into building a 3D product configurator. So first of all, obviously, I did mention that visuals play a role. So with images, there is a certain type of increase in the conversion, but it's a well-researched fact that 3D represents an additional bump in the conversion rates when you start to showcase your product, especially with modular products, that you will get increases in the conversion rates when the customers are actually seeing a product that resembles the actual product that they're going to buy. It also provides confidence, so it makes the customers more ready to buy, especially when you compare it obviously to the situation where you don't have visual representation at all, but also compared to the images. And then finally, a feature that I haven't really spoken about before here is obviously augmented reality. So this is obviously something that's kind of like a table stakes for e-commerce nowadays, that people actually want to see the product that they're buying in the environment that they have. And obviously this is enabled by mobile devices. So in a 3D product configurator, you configure the product, and you're able to then kind of render that configured product as an overlay to the camera feed of your mobile phone. And that in itself helps obviously in the conversion rate, and it makes the customers less or more likely to actually make the purchase when they've actually used the augmented reality feature in the configurator. All right, so now that I've kind of spoken about the kind of like the background of what is it that we do, what is it that we provide, and what's the business impact that our software actually provides. I will do just a very brief glance into the topic of us and ELLTEK Furniture Systems as an intro, and then I will pass the mic into a more detailed feature demo for our Chief Product Officer, Mr. Simo Isomäki. But prior to that, so let me just quickly share my web browser. And that web browser is now here. Should be shared soon. So this is obviously the landing page of our customer, ELLTEK Furniture Systems. They've built their web shop here, and they have as a call to action here, basically shopping their product range, which is, you know, example sets of or combinations of the product range, or then they allow their customers to design their own, you know, by using our 3D product configurator. So clicking on this button will basically open up a page, which is basically the design page in the web shop, and in this page our software is basically located. So here I have an example, a combination of certain product modules in the 3D scene. I can switch on measurements if I'd like. I've got the AR button over here. If I click on it, because I'm on a desktop, it will only enable a QR code here, which obviously is an actual QR code that you can scan with your phone, but due to saving of time, I'll not keep it on for a long time. But then the actual configuration part, you can actually see here on the right-hand side from the 3D scene. So we've got some cabinets here in the menu bar that we can start to add into the actual configuration if we so choose. Here you can see that the configurator already offers a placement for those cabinets. So let's say we pick that we add a cabinet into the left-hand side. Then there are some accessories. For example, we can add a tabletop now into the configuration over here. As you can see, there's the tabletop. And also, obviously, you know, we have a various range of color choices available here, both for the frame. For example, we can do the frame in red, and we could switch the body to be, for example, green. So there you go. And all these changes that I've applied, they obviously reflect in the actual purchase price, which is in real time displayed over here. So any choice we make here into the configuration will in real time impact the actual purchase price. And here we've got an add to cart button for actually placing this configured product, which we just tailored to our liking, and placing it into the actual shopping basket of the e-commerce site. So that's my quick 2-minute demo. And now, Simo, please do take over the microphone.
Yeah, thanks, Jarkko, and welcome from my behalf as well. And let me just share my screen, and let's quickly run through my couple of hundred slides and see the demo. So what I'm going to go through in the feature demo is to explain our system in its capabilities. And in order for me to do that, I just want to highlight that I'll touch two of the most important parts of the process of launching a configurator. And those two parts are the configure stage and the publish stage. But there's a couple of things that need to be done as well that we don't demonstrate today. One is the prepare part, where we need to prepare, or you need to prepare 3D models, textures, texture files, define product logic, things like that help somebody to actually configure a system. And then during the configure stage, we actually put things together, and I'm specifically going to go through a couple of examples of configurations. We define some logic, we view how it affects the buyer view during the publish and so forth. And test phase, you should never launch anything on your website without actually testing that it actually works. So test stage, while it's sort of short in time frame, is still an important step, but we're not going to touch too much about that. And publishing, after you publish, you need to, of course, launch, configure it, operate, update, maintain it, and we're going to touch a bit of that during the demo, especially the launch and operate stage of the process. So in the configure time, most of the work that would happen during the configure time goes in the application side in what we call the manager. So it's a web browser based configuration system where you can define product rules. On the right hand side of the blue side of the screen, you can see example configuration views. On the left side, you see some textual things about what we're actually going to demo. We're going to demo about structural logics, rules-based systems that define how the product assembly will go. We're going to look at connection points. How do you actually attach things together? How do you define an attachment point for different parts together? What are accessories? What are options? What are materials? What if there are logical conditions for some things, like certain thing is automatically included, certain things is conditionally added. Those type of things are important part of the assembly logic. And then there's lots of parameterization. Certain things are variable in a way that a parameter controls how it actually works. And then sales code mappings are an example of parameters that we need to pass for certain different combinations of parts. We need to define a sales code because the sales code will map the data onto your e-commerce system. And that's how we actually link the things together between the configuration time and the order time of an application. So when you have products in your e-commerce system, they have some codes, SKUs or other identities, and those identities we will just use in order to fetch prices and in order to integrate with the add to cart function or at the cart function of your e-commerce system. We talk about pre-built combinations, things that we pre-assemble to give inspiration to users, and of course localization. We work in an international setting. While the system, the manager is English in its language, the consumer side, or the buyer side is localizable to local languages, and we'll actually demonstrate a few examples of that during the demo today. During the launch phase, most of the activity happens on the planner side. And what Jarkko showed was the planner view where the buyer or the configurer is using the application based on the configuration we did on the manager side. And here the key features that we're going to try to demonstrate to the best of our abilities is quality, but quality in a technical sense as well as visually. Quality for technical sense means that user can't make or should not be allowed to make faulty compositions or assemble product in a way that you can't actually deliver what they configured. And the rule system is intended to ensure that you cannot assemble a combination of things in a way that cannot be delivered to the customer. You saw already placers. They are part of functionality that helps customer or the buyer user to actually find what to do, where to place things. And they are automatic. You don't need to configure anything. You do the configuring side and the placers become automatic capability. There are certain automatic placements that happen. So certain things can be automatically placed irrespective or while the user is deciding something that don't really require that the user does something. I'm actually going to show that on the ELLTEK application. And we spoke about pricing. So when you do changes on the configuration, price updates happen automatically. The menu structure that you saw is actually configurable and depends on context or depends on the complexity of the product. It usually makes sense to put certain things together and build the menu structure in a different way than we might have in some of our demos. And the measurement summary PDF AR feature are all things that we're going to try to demonstrate today that help make the buy decision. So if you think of will this fit in my space? Will it work with the colors? What do I need to actually buy? What are the kind of the building blocks that I'm buying? And then seeing the constructed assembly in your own space through AR are means for the customer to gain comfortability to make the purchase decision. And then, of course, the integrations with the real-time price management and then integration with shopping cart are capabilities what we try to demonstrate. Just gonna throw in a minor advertisement. Animations, which means that you could open doors on cabinets, roll out shelves, turn on lights, things like that. Those are a feature that we can't demonstrate today, but we're working on that capability as we speak, and eventually soon enough, you'll be able to actually see a demo about those capabilities. All right, now I actually need to move my window to the side, and I hope that my screen share now still shows slide on the left and a web browser view on the right. And Jarkko, could you just nod if that's what, okay, good. I just wanted to make sure that. So what I'm trying to show you in configurability now is actual configurations about different things. And I'm taking this bit by bit. In order to show something like ELLTEK system, it actually requires that we go through a lot of these features one by one. But let's start. Let's start with simple things. Parts are an important element. And what I've done here is make a demo environment where I have many different products. And this product, now that is highlighted, basic single piece module, has many parts that are individual. And what I mean by individual is that they are not part of an assembly. So if I turn on the planner view in our built-in test environments, you could see this as like testing, iterating testing. I have basic sofa chair accessory demo, material demo 1, material demo 2, 1.0. Hang on a sec, they actually are exactly the same things that I defined here. So that's entirely intentional. So basically this menu structure here, or the tree structure that you're seeing here, is represented by the planner view in a different format, but fundamentally this is part of the configuration. For the basic chair, I've configured 3 different material slots and 2 materials for the base fabric. Only 1 material for the frame and the pillow. And what it means in the customer configuration side is that I can edit only the material around which has options. So because the pillow and frame does not have any other option than what they were given, so there's only 1 option, it's not really configurable. It's then the default option is always used. And if I just switch between fabric pink and fabric gray, the part changes as I see it. Accessory is a different type of connector called an accessory slot. And an accessory slot takes in not materials, it takes in parts. And in here I have 2 parts. One is oval headrest and a soft headrest. Okay, so what does this configuration do? I have my module, and it now defines me 2 different accessories, an oval headrest and a soft headrest. I can remove the accessory, of course, but now I have basic option. In the module, I've defined that there's only 1 color or 1 fabric, so there's no configurability of that. But actually in my accessory definition, I've allowed this accessory to having different material option. So this is part of our capability in terms of configuration. We can easily make an accessory that is dependent on the main parts choice, but we can leave it as an option to configure separately. All right. In the material side, I have a 2 variant demo. I have demo 1 and demo 2, and they're configured differently. So in demo 2, I have only 1 material slot with options for different materials. And I've defined that all material areas of this part are included. So these material selections affect the whole product. In the material demo 1, I have 3 different slots, the same fabrics or the same materials for each of the slot, but they're actually individual and affect a different area of the product. So what does this mean in configuration? I have lots of different material choices for this product, and they affect different parts of the module. I choose the other configuration, and I only have one set of choices, and it affects all 3 areas of the product. Okay. I can then do a bit more complicated demo around the same principles, but now adding in legs of a chair. So I have a chair module that has 6 potential positions or placeholders, accessory slots, where the legs are, and I have 2 legs defined. I've defined only one fabric for this part. Well, what does this mean in practice? Select the module, and I can change the leg. And while it has 6 positions, there are certain conditions why we don't see 6 legs, we see 4 legs. And I'll explain that a bit later. Hold on to the thought for a little while. The part that needs definition when you place something like legs under a chair is that these legs, the accessory slot, needs to be aligned somewhere in the 3D scene so that it's positioned under the chair module. And that's an interesting part of configuration that needs to be done. Each of these accessory slots attached to a certain place on our model so that it tells the system where to render the leg when a user is viewing it. All right, so that's a basic single piece module and configuration of various options, accessories, placing them, removing, changing materials and colors. When we move to something modular, we start with the most simplest form of maybe a structure called linear. And what linear structure is fundamentally anything that connects with the idea that there's something called a left and a right. Typically, sofa that extends by modules side to side, but anything, shelving systems, tables, things like that, machinery lines, assembly lines, they could all form a logic that follows a linear structure where you have something on your left and something on your right per module. And accessories are just attachments outside of that. So attachments can affect one part, like we have 2 pictures here. And of course, these connectors can turn 90 degrees, 12 degrees, 30 degrees, any angle, so that the structure moves, like if you have a corner piece for something or an assembly line that makes a 90-degree turn. But the idea around a connector on the left and a connector on the right is fundamental to the idea of a linear structure. Actually, is configured so that you have a structure component, and all of the parts that are under this structure follow then the structure logic system. And in the structure logic system, we can define construction rules, like how do these assemble together on the left connector and on the right connector. We can define, as previously, all of the materials as we did before. So all of what I've said in the demo before applies also for linear structure and components here. What does this mean in the view of the customer? We select one part, we select another, In the configuration, we've told that, okay, one seater can connect to one seater both on the left and the right, and the system automatically shows placers to indicating, hey, you can place this here or here. In the configuration, we've told that the left armrest can only connect to a free left connector. So it has a right connector to a left connector. So it automatically is placed on the proper place. The same applies to right armrest. So it automatically places on its place. And now we can't anymore add anything in here because there's no free connectors anymore. If we remove the armrest, we can continue assembling, make corners, like here, and continue assembling to making somewhat of an interesting software configuration. But the idea still is left and right all the time. The materials affect everything at the same time. So if you choose a different fabric, every part gets updated with the same material choice that we made. If we quickly view, I need to actually find here. If we quickly view the ELLTEK configurator, actually uses the linear connectivity logic to build the assembly of the configuration. So if I start over, take a 7-drawer cabinet, place it, the logic follows the same structure as did a sofa. So the building logic can be applied to anything that follows just a certain logic. The next one is a grid, and a grid is a matrix of cells, whether it's finite within a fixed site, 3 by 4, or expanding and infinite, so the cells get expanded as you build. The row and column dimensions are actually configurable. Parts can consume more than one cell, so you can have a 1 times 1 part, 1 times 2, 2 times 2, 2 times 1, or any combination of those. And we support corner side and multi-side elements as part of defining how this structure is built. And an example of grid could be a cabinet with shelves that are defined as part of grid. And let's view how does that look like. So here we have a cabinet, and I can place shelves in it. And again, I have placers that indicate the place where I can put a shelf. I can put glass shelves or wood shelves in, and there we go. Once I've placed all of the placers full, and I've placed everything, I cannot add anything more. I can remove things, and again, I can configure. But grid can form quite a complex structures. And of course, as we go by, I'll explain how you combine these structures together. Moving on. Freeze placement is actually an interesting structure in a way that it is the most free by its nature. And the idea is that it works for things that you assemble on the floor or things that you put together on a wall that don't follow a strict structure logic. And it could be simply like cabinets that you place on this virtual wall that you can see rendered in the background. And when I place items in here, I can see that these actually show lines where the items meet, and they actually snap in when you bring them close enough so that it's easy to assemble, for example, a cabinet of 3 by 3. But I could just throw them apart and have 4th one here and a 5th one here. And this is what I want to buy. So a free placement structure gives freedom to place things without actually having strict rules about how the assembly goes. And then, of course, nested structures are things that you can combine. So we can define a floor where we have a cube that has shelves. And when I place, you can see that there's a virtual floor. If I place another one, they are both on the floor. I can choose to add shelves into this. If I don't have a module selected and I choose a part, I can choose which part I place it to, and so forth. Conditionals. This is actually a bit tricky to demonstrate in full, so I'm going to just bypass some of these configurations and just show a few of those. Conditionals refer to things like, here we are adding perforated panel, and the places showing that there's plenty of places where we can place this. But the material for this panel actually gets inherited from the base color that we've chosen. So the accessory material is the same as the main part. Adding a part adds another part. So these support bars appear only when a perforated panel is attached. And if I choose all the perforated panels, some options will no longer be available. We already spoke about like conditional accessories. So I can place a perforated panel only where it actually fits, and a small perforated panel because I already made a selection that restricts some other accessory to be placed. The second example would be to take an assembly of sofa. And one thing that affects sofa is where the legs are positioned. So if you look closely, the legs are inverted the other way around and placed under the other part when I've added a three-piece combination. So parts position depends on conditions. And we do support parts that have configurable dimensions, so things that are variable width or height. But unfortunately, I don't have a demo for that here today. It's a bit complicated to demonstrate now, but we're happy to demonstrate it on private after this session. Need to quickly go through sales code mapping. I hope I did the configuration here. Yes, I did. All right. So in order for us to do the real-time pricing, we need to indicate to or ask price from the e-commerce system for a certain variant. And the only way to discover the variant is to define that we have a part and in certain conditions implements a certain code. And that applies like here, we have different parts and different cabinets that have different codes. And when we query, when we add that into the scene, the system automatically queries what's the price for this combination and adds it to the list. This is useful also in the summary. This is the code, and here's the material options and the accessories that are associated. And all of these accessories or options tally up the total price. And if you really carefully looked at also, we don't have that feature turned on here. Actually, I need to show it in the other demo. In a second. Now I'm having a bit of trouble because my windows are overlapping so badly. So I think here, yes, here we also indicate prices by unit. So here the sales code is actually quite complicated code, but it covers the texture or the fabric that is used, and we show prices by units. We show prices as including tax, what's the tax breakout, and what's the sum as combination. And if there are units that we have many, like legs, if they had a price per unit, we would actually have unit price and total price. And like I said, or in the slide, the sales code mapping also affects the PDF. The PDF has also the sales code, and the PDF summarizes the whole combination that we did in the configuration view. And if you now want to view that sofa, here's now your opportunity to scan the QR code. If you're quick, feel free to scan the QR code with your mobile phone and place that sofa in your space and view it yourself at your leisure. So we touched upon the key capabilities of the configurator with guiding user based on configuration, showing what to do, how to do. We did cover real-time pricing and add to cart in the planner view. We did cover a bit about helping customers decide on will this fit. The measurement system is intended for that. And each time we remove or add items in the composition, the measurements get updated. And if I just find my other tab, that works in ELLTEK's configurator as well. And if we add a corner and add pieces, one of the greatest things is that you can view the corners, the total heights, the unit heights, and the total widths and dimensions as well. We do support all kinds of custom measures as well. For sofas, it means things like showing how high the seat position is. And we do have things like measurement overrides. So if under certain conditions, certain dimensions don't apply, the measurement override helps configuration at time. I already did cover summary and PDF briefly. So the PDF forms a kind of receipt with which you can go to in-store for shopping. The PDF is also useful for sharing with others, so you can send it to somebody else and, hey, I thought about this. The AR view is similar with the QR code. So the many useful things in the planner view that help customer make the purchase decision. The last thing I want to show is a thing called environments. What you so far seen is a fairly bland, not so exciting environment. And now my window is so hidden that I can get back to my view here. All right, it doesn't mean that that's the only thing we can do. We can easily have a background. That is even a bit silly, but for the sake of demo, I'm just going to use that. So now we're configuring the chair in a garage. And the point what I'm trying to say here is that even though in most of our cases, the background or the scenery is really bland, it's there for the reason that we try to highlight the product. We are not really selling garages. We're not really selling things like that. We're only showing a configuration of a product. But it also does make sense occasionally to have a demo where certain things are in the background. And the last demo I have is a handle demo where you configure handles, select different materials, look at how the handle looks. And it's really boring without the background of a door where it's placed. So door sort of places the configuration in a way that you can at least view them. That's how the handle actually looks like. And we do support the ability to put a background element, a floor or a wall where the configuration kind of happens, a virtual element, onto the view. while it creates certain different issues, so you would want to have lots of things like windows and placements of things, and that starts to be room configuration, which really isn't the purpose of a product configurator, but to a degree, something in the scenery to help the buyer user to see a more realistic environment where to configure a handle, for example, does make sense. So that can be added onto the scene as well. We do support room planning as well, but it's a completely different product that we're not going to demonstrate today. Last but not least, integrations. We do support the integrations, and a mandatory part of launching a configurator, especially if you want to have the add to cart functionality and price integration easily done. Shopify, WooCommerce supported today, Magento available soon, and custom made that are special to you based on your configuration. Those are also possible that we can do. But what we do with those is basically fetch the price and tax codes and keep track on the inventory of what we've selected on the composition, and then we push that inventory onto the cart. So in order to push the order process follow through and make that happen. And while taking almost a half an hour to demo, I just need to take a break and a breather. And I'm going to introduce Elliot. Elliot Mosley, Director for ELLTEK Systems. Now is your turn, together with Jarkko. So sorry for stealing half an hour of time demonstrating your application as well a bit to our audience. But yeah, I hope it made sense to everybody just to see the product capabilities as well. And Jarkko, handing the mic a little bit maybe to you first, or directly to Elliot. At least Jarkko, you need to share the slides for Elliot. So Elliot, now go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Elliot Mosley. I am the director and founder of ELLTEK Systems based in the UK. We are a startup company. We're very, very new to the market, so we have been actively going for around 8 to 9 months now. And we predominantly sell workshop furniture systems. So when we say furniture systems, we talk storage systems, metal furniture, drawers, cupboards, worktops, anything within a heavy duty industrial environment. We provide modular-based systems for private customers, industrial businesses, any application where you need to store something, we sell that product for you. Predominantly our customers are B2C, so we deal a lot with end users and consumers to do things like private garages. We call them in the UK man caves, and things like this where people will really want to show off some features of their furniture and storage systems in their houses. And then also B2B. So as the business has grown, we've grown a distributor business where people are now buying ELLTEK and distributing it to their end users as well. We're a small family-owned company, so we're a small team of 4 or 5 people, rapidly growing over the last few months due to the demand of, I would say, entry level, but a quality brand of furniture system. And over the last few months, we've gone from ranking very low in the market to coming up to 4th or 3rd in our industry, which has been a fantastic journey for us so far, with obviously the help of the VividWorks 3D configurator.
Thanks, Elliot. Fantastic to hear kind of like a little bit of your background. And the next part that we were planning to do was basically like a little bit of a chat, and just me basically asking some simple questions related to obviously like what you guys are kind of doing. And obviously here, just to remind, if anyone in the from the attendees obviously has a question to Elliot, don't be afraid to shoot it out into the Q&A section here. But let's just start quickly, like traveling back a little bit in time. So obviously there was time, you know, when you were kind of founding the business or putting the business together. So what was your sales like? Like how was you creating quotes and things like that? And you know, what really led you to the situation where you kind of felt that you even need a 3D product configurator?
Sure. The 3D configurator idea came really at the early stages of our company. We identified in our market when we started this that there was a gap in the market for something where people could create their own solution. You know, our market is very much based on how much size somebody has to be able to fit furniture in there. So people having the ease of being able to do this was key for us to grow the business. Now, when we started the company, a 3D configurator didn't come overnight. So the start of our process was to help customers design their products. And for us, this would be a 2 to 3 week process where we would go backwards and forwards with ideas and having to redraw designs for them to approve. And through that process, I would say it would take about 5 different versions of us going backwards and forwards with a customer until they were actually happy with the end product that we had designed. Now, this is obviously cost and time, and this takes a lot of staff away from other things that they could be doing. So a configurator to give, let's say, the customer the ammunition or whatever they needed to create their own product and then come to us with that design really would dramatically reduce the wasted time we were doing. Not much wasted in the fact that we were creating a product, but time that could be saved and utilized somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, that just totally makes sense to me. So I mean, I had actually like on my on my list, I was like, my next question would have been like, you know, what type of challenges did you see? But you kind of like actually spoke really nicely through that. And I guess like, you know, when we kind of like started our conversation, you know, you were obviously looking at different types of solutions, like what's out there. So I mean, I have to ask, how did you choose us? You know, how did you find us? How did you choose us?
Sure. So, you know, in any sort of business decision you take, you don't go with your first option. You have to shop around and find the best, just as if you were buying a product. So for us, we needed to find a solution that really catered for 3 things, which was ease of use for the customer, that didn't make things too difficult, that would integrate really well with how we were doing things at the moment, because we are an e-commerce based business. So things that would integrate into our e-commerce system would be fantastic. And also giving us the information for what the customer had designed as well. So those are the 3 key things that we needed to do. So we took those 3 key things, did a shop around, VividWorks came up, and through the discussions that we had, VividWorks were in a place where we could reach a product fairly quickly for where we needed to be. When we started this, looking for a configurator with the designs and the files, we estimated a 6 to 12 month, let's say, process to have a final product on our website. But with VividWorks and yourself and the team you've got there, we reduced that to, let's say, it was about 8 to 12 week turnaround. So it really did step up the game to what we needed.
Yeah, and that was actually, that's a nice bridge to what I was going to kind of ask you next is, you know, regarding the implementation. So you did mention the 12-week window, and obviously there was we were at the time obviously working our way with Shopify, so there was a little bit of a delay with that one. So we could have been actually a little bit even faster with that, but and you did mention that it kind of felt fast, and as Simo was covering kind of in his part, the sort of like the preparative stage for launching the configurator, I guess there was also one thing that helped us, which was the fact that the manufacturer of your product actually had 3D models to go. So we didn't really have to, you know, invest a lot of actually elapsed time into preparing the 3D models. But so those were kind of like the good things, obviously, in the implementation. But so, you know, is there anything you want to kind of bring up from the implementations phase or taking the configurator live? Any observations, lessons learned, or any challenges that you saw?
No, I mean, from our business, from an ELLTEK as a whole, when you implement something brand new, you always have a few teething problems, whether it be on our side with all the processing or even people physically using the configurator. But apart from that, because a lot of our customers, when we look at how people buy our products, the key aspect for us was optimizing the mobile aspect of it, because 95% of our customers use their mobile phones to order products, and I think everybody's the same when they go onto Amazon or eBay. Laptops are hardly used unless it's really going into the details. So, you know, being able to optimize that, and then also the integration with Shopify, we had a few teething problems, but I think we were the first ones to have VividWorks on Shopify, so we worked together. But even with those teething problems, I think we had them sorted within sort of 10 days, because between yourselves and us, the communication was fantastic. We had a few things that didn't work, a few keywords that were in place, but the reaction time was fantastic.
Well, that's certainly good to hear, and thank you for the advertisement. We'll certainly make sure that you get your reward for that one. But anyway, so moving on. So you know, obviously you saw kind of like here, Simo go through in detail, like, you know, pretty much like every single you know, technical feature that exists in the configurator. But did you, like, in terms of like when your customers use it or you use it yourself to create, you know, a solution for your customer, are there any particular things that you find, you know, particularly useful, as you know, from the feature point of view?
Yeah, from the features, the key one was for us was the measurements, because what people do is they take away, they find their space in measurements, and then they configure to exactly what space they've got. We always get customers coming back and say, can you make things a little bit bigger and a little bit smaller, but it's metal, we can't change it. So, you know, we have to stick with that. But the measurements feature, because of the accuracy and because we can do that in millimeters, which was a key fact for us as well, customers can literally, without contacting us, create it, order it, purchase it, and have it delivered without any communication there.
Yeah, I mean, that again, like maybe repeating a little bit myself, but that just makes sense because, you know, like you said, you work with private garages and things like that, and I guess, you know, space is tight in those kind of things that you have to make sure that you kind of fit in with your product. Okay. What about then, like, you know, speaking about like maybe like business impact for you guys? You know, there's things like you know, your sales process. Obviously, you spoke a little bit about the kind of like the time you spent in creating quotations. But how about like, you know, sales cycle or like just concrete, you know, one cases like success stories? Is there anything that you know, you could share that you've been able to actually, like, you know, win a deal or make an impression to the customer or something like that with the help of the configurator?
Yeah, sure. I think from the aspect of our business behind the scenes, the big thing that changed for us was we had an influx of orders and not enough stock to cater for those orders. So we had a good but bad situation here for a couple of months, which was fantastic. And we saw the switch because on our website we have our pre-made configurations where people can buy preset packages of our products, and then we had obviously the configurator which implemented, and we saw a shift in 90% of orders were now people designing their own products and buying it that way. So the impact was a load of orders that we had to try and catch up with, which now we have stock in the UK, which is fantastic, and we're slowly growing that stock and getting somewhere to be able to cater for these. Success stories for us is being ahead of our competition. So that was the key, where in our market for our competitors, nobody can do the customization that we can with the configurator that we've got, with colors, with sizes, being able to adapt and change things. We have a lot of people that say we can buy from here, but they only have one set of colors in stock, whereas your products, you can choose over 250,000 different ways to design our product. We started this with just a mindset of automotive, so garages, mechanics, and all this kind of stuff. But honestly, 10% of those have been garages and 90% of those have been everybody else customizing what we've done. So from when we had the configurator, we've seen probably a 25% increase in custom sales than we have standard configurations.
Right. And does that custom sale, does that mean then that it's actually like larger orders than what you would normally get because it's like bespoke and custom?
Yeah, correct. Because people just add accessories and more cabinets and more perforated panels, and there's so many things they can adapt and change.
Right.
So yeah, it opens up a lot more for people to purchase a lot more as well, because they can physically add those individual items.
Sure. I mean, that's just brilliant. You know, I think we can kind of wrap up the chat part, but like, before we do that, you know, do you have any sort of like, you know, you've actually now, first of all, obviously, like, congrats on the growth of the business. It's just fantastic to hear. And I guess like you've actually like not just obviously like working through the sort of like the business aspect, but you've actually like been able to build a live web shop in a really short time frame. I think that's quite amazing. Now, having done this and gone through this journey, like, do you have any sort of like, you know, real life tips, recommendations for, you know, an existing business being in your situation, that they want to kind of like, for let's say that they have been, for example, selling through dealers and they want to, launch an online business, or then, they're just starting out with a completely new product which they want to sell via an online site, or even a startup. Like, that certainly applies. Anything you kind of can say based on your experience?
Many. We've learned a lot of lessons setting up this company. So a lot of people see we've grown a fantastic business, but there's been so much hard work behind it that we've learned a lot as we go through this. So I think from a configurator perspective, obviously for any business, this is an investment that you have to look at, because it doesn't come free and there is a cost to that. So when we looked at implementing the configurator, we looked at two things, which was the return on investment, how much our sales were going to grow, and also how much time we were going to save, because that was a cost as well. So when you do invest in these things, don't just look at the sales of what this does. We need to look also at the process and what we save and what else we can do by diminishing other things that we're wasting time on.
Yep, that makes sense for sure. All right. So stick around, Elliot. Still, there's a few questions in the question and answer part. And also, Simo, if you could kind of like also open up your microphone and
sure.
and video. So there's a few questions that we can kind of cover here. So let's take the first one that's kind of come in actually. I guess it must have been during Simo your speech. So it's directly asking about integration. So is it possible to integrate your configurator with an ERP or a CRM system? So outside of the actual e-commerce domain.
Well, the answer is yes, and the only kind of note that needs to be taken into account is the kind of the process impact of what happens in the process wise. So the answer is yes, can be integrated with an ERP system and a CRM system, but the question is more around what's the process that why these are integrated, and that's maybe sort of a follow-up. Technically the capability is in the system through an integration, and we actually plan to support certain ERP systems and certain CRM systems with a built-in kind of like a ready-made integration in the future. But unfortunately, we're still building our software as well, so there are things that we haven't yet completed. So at the moment, those integrations would be custom made.
All right. And then I guess we can pick another one here from the list. There's actually so many questions here that we probably can't cover every single one. So let me see if we could find one that we can answer here live. So what we can do is obviously we can take these offline as well, and because we can see, unless you've switched on anonymous, we can see from whom the questions are, so we can kind of answer them later.
I think that the question from Joona about does your configurator support different languages? I'm just going to answer it live, and the answer is yes. So we do support localization, and every text field on the planner side is localizable to different languages. And those languages are parallel supported. So if you run a configurator in multiple countries, you can run the same product in UK English, Brazil Portuguese, Japan, Korean. You pick your country in a multi-country configuration, and the same product, the same 3D models work, and the text will be localized to different languages. In my demo, I went to a Finnish webshop. The texts were in Finnish. In Elliot's configurator, everything is in English. So that's an example that defines that this is doable. And those localization texts, they're actually all implemented in the configuration side. With fields that you can fill in or add later on. down the process of implementing the configurator. So you can start with one language, add another language later, or launch with multiple languages as well.
Thanks, Simo. So I'll take the last question that I'll answer, and then the rest will answer via email. So there's a question: is there a possibility to get a 3D draw by Adobe in a PDF code so the customer can turn the drawing in a PDF? So right now, unfortunately, I have to say we only support an image in the PDF. However, I guess this is something that is definitely a possibility for us, because obviously extracting the 3D model from our product is relatively easy, and that could be placed into the PDF. If Adobe as a PDF reader supports that one, when you browse the PDF, so that would be a feature that we would place in our roadmap, and look at implementing them and that one on a schedule. All right, I think we are more or less done. Final thing to do is for Justin to take care of the wrap up of the webinar.
Yeah, and I can just add that we'll share the questions and answers also online to everybody. So even if you did not post a question, you and your participating, all of the answers will be shared with you as well. But we take those offline just to keep time.
Yes.
Go ahead, Justin.
Can you put the slide of the personalized offer? Yes. So we have a special offer for the first 30 participants to book a call with us before the 16th of October. So simply click on the link in the chat box, and once you schedule the call, enter the code VIVID23 in the message field, and then stay tuned for the next step. We will send you the instructions by email. Yes. So thank you very much for joining today's webinar. And thank you, Elliot, again, for participating as well.
Thank you all, and have a great evening.
Have a nice evening.
Bye, everyone.